All right, well, back again for another quick scene, relatively quick scene. I don't know how long this is going to take, but this is one of the Deanna Tubb-Sedillo 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 background papers here with the setting sun. It looks like over some hills or a canyon in here. I'm going to do what I did yesterday. I had so much fun using my new castle here on these background mountains. The hills on that one. I thought it would work really well with this one as well. And I thought looking into this scenario would be one of my little figures. So I'll show you what I'm going to use there. But I'm going to blot off the bottom of this castle so that it transitions a little bit more gracefully into a lighter color than black. Now I could stamp this out in some kind of violet tone, but I don't think it's going to hold up against this background too well. So I want to stamp it in black just so that it would be fairly opaque against that background. But then we're going to have to transition the lower portion into this more purplish blue hill. All right, so I'll show you what I mean by that here in a bit. Our focal point as far as her Deanna's background paper is definitely the sun. So everything that I do is going to be kind of focused or built around that visually dominant focal point there. It's like an eye in the sky. Okay, I'm holding this down a little bit longer to allow plenty of that ink to transfer. So that's what you have right there, that black. But if I didn't wipe it off on the bottom portion, we'd see a much more definitive line right down there. So I really wiped off about a 1/4 inch of that bottom ink in here. And then removed a little bit more up to about a 1/2 inch or so. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to have this right here as a close kind of cliffside, I think. I'm going to put this over here, like about like that. I'm going to have this girl on a swing like this. I don't want to put this too far into the scene. Maybe we'll angle it a little bit more like that. I think that'll be good. I'm not going to use this whole oak branch here, but pretty good portion of it I'm inking up. I always ink up more than I think I'm going to need. On here I don't need to ink up this like last little segment, but I just want to make sure that as I'm composing and moving this around like that, I'm not going to, stamp too far over. And, if I only inked up to a certain spot and if I move it in a little bit, I don't want to have a blank area. Let's go about like that. Decent amount of pressure. This is a matte paper and it's porous, but we're printing on and into a lot of these layered printer inks. So the inks themselves could be a little bit resistant to other media being applied over the top of it because you have to get these inks to kind of penetrate the surface a little bit, in order to get the darkest impression. So stamp and hold for a little bit. It's not that you're trying to squeeze the ink into the surface. It's just, you're holding this so that the ink starts to set up a little bit and to, kind of dry a little bit. And that way, you'll get plenty of it to transfer. But even that being said, I can look at this, and that's not really like 100% black. It's more like a 90% gray. Same with that right in there. These are pretty dark, but it's not as dark as if I use this directly onto a piece of like white paper or something. All right, now we have our figure here, and let's see. We'll go up like this. I'll put her a little bit higher. Like that. I can't have her too far high up there because if this is supposed to be the ground, I don't want her like 3 feet in the air or something like that. Her head is the main thing that I'm looking at. Okay, now I've designed this girl on a swing with these 2 cords, ropes, or something like that here. But so don't squish it down too hard, otherwise those ends of the rope, that just small narrow design is going to flare out a little bit because you'd be squishing it down. So most of the pressure just down in this area. I always like to have figures kind of looking into the scene, especially, like a beautiful background like this. It's nice to have someone within the scene. If you have a figure in the scene, I have them gazing at what they would probably be looking at if they were in here, so in the scenario. All right, so there she goes. That she's hovering above, nothing there, so we're going to put a little bit of a grassy slope right in here. And I'll use the sedge filler stamp. I'm going to wipe off a little bit off the edges like that. And I'm going to follow Deanna's inherent slope in here. So it goes like that, but I'm going to go up like this up here. And that'll give it a nice, hopefully graceful looking curve. That. Now that alone isn't going to do it, so I'll put in some grasses and I'll try to create a little bit of a differentiation between this area down below, like a little slope or like a cliff or something like that they're looking down. Yeah, I guess I could put this in here right now. A lot of times I like to put a little, or I don't know, save my foreground imagery for later, but let's just do that right now. A little bit of reeds. Now normally that's pretty good, but I need something a little bit taller here, so these art foamy reeds are going to come in handy, I think. See how I kind of cluster that like that? All right, now, as we can see, these cords don't go all the way up to our branch, so I'm going to extend these. Excuse my head being in the way. All right, there we go, like that. Spent a lot of time on the swings as a kid, that's for sure. We had a swing set in our backyard. And then, yeah, always at the, I don't know, kindergarten, first grade, maybe. Okay, now we're gonna go into this and add some visual mass to our objects in here. So this sloping grass right here, what we'll do is we'll kind of start to fill that in a little bit. Not completely. Maybe fill in isn't the the right term, but we'll give it a little bit more opacity. Okay, so I do want some variation in here, though. There's not too much, because it's a black image on a very dark field of like a violet blue or something. But I'll keep some of that. But I wanted to get some tone in there just to make this feel a little bit more solid. Okay, now she didn't stamp out quite as dark as I wanted, so I'm going to fill this in. Sometimes when I'm doing these pieces, I don't know, I start to rush it a little bit more. Even though I'm kind of describing, hey, hold this down a little bit longer. I totally get it. I don't want to stamp it as long as I did right over here. But you can just go in and fill in. I guess branch right here maybe gets a little bit of tone. I mean, having some of that color kind of reflect through some of the branches, I think that's good in some ways. It kind of creates a little bit more integration of the form into the space by having that color in there. I don't know. It's shining through them, but you can say it's also kind of reflecting off of their forms. Okay, now see this right here? We need to really get this integrated, so I'll create a kind of a grayscale transition into that area. All right, getting the feel, see that kind of black going down into there like that. When I say black, I'm using a black pencil here, but I'm really, utilizing it for variations of gray. I'm just putting some into this hill over here to give it a little bit more balance, so it's not just purple over here and blackish purple over here. I want to kind of, and I don't want to make it too dark behind our figure here on the swing set either, because we want that figure to stand in, and it's already kind of dark against very dark right in here, so I'm just making it a little bit darker. All right, now let's see. We have our white paint pen, and we can see right up in here the colors of the sky are showing right through that. So I'm going to reintroduce a light into that window area, just so it looks like, I don't know, the lights are on in the castle, I guess. And then we'll bring in a little bit of white pastel pencil. And we'll have some of these slopes just kind of, I don't know, reflecting some of that lighting in there. I'm going to do this really lightly because, again, it's really so dark in this area. I just want to bring out a little bit of the forms in here. And here's the slope of this hill right there. Now, Deanna already has some lightness in there. That's what's defining that kind of that passageway in there. But now that we have things kind of established in there, I'm just going in there and reiterating what she already has kind of, you know, within the forms there a little bit. So see the slope right here just kind of comes down in here a little bit more. These two are kind of coming out in here. All right, I'm going to do this right down here too. I'm going to give this, which is this blue tone area, I'm going to give it a little bit more form in here and say that that's kind of this kind of bank of clouds right in here for this scenario that I've set up in here. So I'm giving that a little bit more of a lighter value, I guess. Trying to smooth it out a little bit. Deanna's done such a cool job at establishing a lot of the forms in here. So I don't want to lose any of that existing value in there. So see that it just kind of gives it a little bit more of like this cloudy flare right in here. I'll do it down here till I have it a little bit lighter, a little bit darker, and then lighter again right in here. About like so. Okay, now all this is kind of leading up. I'm kind of lightening up some of these areas in here because I want to bring a little bit of illumination into this area right in here, if I can. Nothing major again because it's just, it'll stand out too much. Okay, it's really subtle in here. These grasses. And there's a little bit of a lighting on her shoulder on the design. And I'll just go in there a little bit on her dress. like that, just kind of picking up a little bit of that light like that. And looking around, let's see, I'll bring a little bit more lighting up here. See, I'm just kind of going, it was already light up there, I'm just kind of tweaking it a little bit more. Just based on what we've created in here, so we're just following suit with this a little bit. Okay, so on the bottom side of this branch, I think I'll add a little bit of, I'm usually doing this with a paint pen, but I think it might be, the paint pen might be a little bit too harsh, even if I use color and not white. So we'll bring in a little bit of this lighting. In this case, bottom lighting, bottom lit branch or side lit branch like that. And it brings a little bit more dimension to that form right in there. Maybe that's too much. Yeah, something like that. So the branch looks a little bit more three-dimensional, I think. Like that. And I think that should do it right there. And deciding if I want anything else. I don't think I do. We came down here with that black. Maybe I'll come up here with the light a little bit more. So you come down with the dark from top to bottom, and then when I'm bringing in the lighting, it's kind of bottom to top, I guess. Something like that. Okay. And a lot of fun. Kind of interpreting the forms in here and coming up with a fun composition based on Deanna's stylized background. Always fun to work on them and see what happens, because I'm getting the results that I normally wouldn't have, because I probably wouldn't do a background like that. It'd be cool if I could, but I don't know. It's a collaborative piece. Little sailboat. I have a tiny little sailboat that would be kind of cool in here, because now that looks like the water to me, like the ocean, which is kind of cool. So, yeah, maybe this is a little inlet or something like that. Anyways, different ways to look at it. What do you see? All right. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the piece. Thanks to Deanna for sharing her artwork with us for us to, I don't know, whatever, develop, new compositions and end results for ourselves.